Hey guys, Jalen here from Team Infinity doing another Armor Dragon deck profile. I'm doing the profile with explanations for every single card I play, and I have them all sorted out from size 1s to size 2s to removal spells to defensive spells, and then on to the miscellaneous junk that every dragon probably runs. We've got, of course, the Flag, Dragon World, which you definitely have to play, and of course, then you have your buddy. I played Damascus Armor Dragon just because of his 6/6 stat making him a really good card on his own. First up, we have 4,000 Rapier Dragon. 1,000 Rapier Dragon makes the deck pretty much what it is and why it's so good. As you can see, it's got 5,000 attack, 2 criticals, and 1,000 defense, and it's a size 1. It just does so much work in the deck because it just allows you to rush in. 2 crit is nothing to laugh at. It's pretty standard, but it's really good. And of course, the 5,000 power on a single size 1 just makes this a really threatening card to your opponent. Up next, we have 3 Zantetsu no Dachi Dragon. Zantetsu no Dachi Dragon is pretty much a double sword dragon. This card just allows you to go in just like 1,000 Rapier, maybe not with the same amount of crit, being only 5,000 attack, 1 crit, and 4,000 defense. But the 4,000 defense makes a big difference because it makes your opponent have to play maybe a size 2, or if they're playing dragons, they play like maybe one of these or 1,000 Rapier and just run over it. But that still implies they have to bring out a monster to deal with it because it's still got quite a good amount of defense for a size 1. Next up, we have 3 Spike Shoulder Dragon. Spike Shoulder Dragon, you pay 1 gauge to bring him out, and he is a 3,000 power, 3 crit, and 2,000 defense size 1 monster. It does a lot of work because it pressures your opponent into doing plays that they don't want to do. First turn, if you bring this out, you automatically make your opponent either they waste the shield or they're just going to have to eat up 3 damage. So about 33% of their health is already gone right there, so that's just already a good start. So this card just already makes your opponent pressure to not take the damage. Up next is 2 Bladewing Dragon. Bladewing Dragon is just a simple 2,000 power, 2 crit, and 2,000 defense monster, as you can see. And it has the move ability, so it can move to the next corresponding position. So that means, just demonstration with the mat, if it's in the middle, during the beginning of the attack phase, you can move to the left. And then during the beginning of the next attack phase, you can move to the middle. And then so on and so forth, move to the right. So it's just a pretty good card just because you can protect yourself by having a card to go in the middle, and at the same time it can be on your left or right. Up next, we have the size 2, starting off with the Buddy. Damascus Armor Dragon. Its 6,000 power and 6,000 defense are really threatening for your opponent because it really does a lot of work by just making your opponent have to deal with it because it's a wall of 6,000 defense. And it's at 6,000 power, so it can deal with even other walls by himself. Up next is a really questionable card. We have 2 Rising Fire Dragon. Rising Fire Dragon, you may have to pay 2 gauge to bring him out, and his stats aren't the greatest. I mean, he has the same stats as Double Sword, except he has 2 crit. But his ability to destroy a size 2 or less can make it a really great card in lots of situations, because it can deal with other walls. I mean, think about this card, but then think about Thunder Knight's Halberd Dragon, the move ability version of this card. So then it just makes it really annoying to deal with, so you can just bring this out and then immediately get rid of it. Or say you're going against a card like Drum Bunker Dragon. Drum Bunker Dragon has Soul Guard, so then if you can get rid of one of its Soul Guard, or if it already lost that card in its soul, you can just destroy it without having to attack it. This card can really come in handy. Speaking of Drum Bunker Dragon, I play 2 of him. I only mainly play 2 because I do play the 2 Rising Fire. So that is the main reason why I only play 2 drums. But drums still works just fine at 2 in the deck. I see him plenty of times. He's a really great card in the deck, of course, because of his 3 crit, his 5,000 power, and his 5,000 defense, and his Soul Guard ability. And you only have to pay 1 gauge to bring him out. And this card just applies a lot of pressure to your opponent, because if you attack with him during your turn, and then they just only attack it once, then you can go for another 3 damage, and if they don't have shields, which is unlikely, but if they don't, and then you're at 4 gauge, you can win with Gargantua Punisher. So this card already applies a lot of pressure to your opponent, which is why they have to usually kill it as fast as possible. And the last of the size 2s, we have Jomodar Dragon, 8,000 power, 2 crit, and 4,000 defense. Just makes this card a really good monster because its sheer power. Its power just makes it get over so many walls that it would take link attacks to kill. So this card's just there, so I don't have to usually waste a link attack just to kill one monster. Onto the monster removal, we have 3 Dragonic Thunder. Dragonic Thunder, you pay 1 gauge, it's a counterspell, and you destroy a size 1 or less monster on your opponent's side of the field. Now this card, most people play it at 2. I decided to play it at 3. This card is really great at 3 because size 1 is the most popular size in the game, so you have to at least be able to deal with size 1. This works really well in the Magic World and Katana World matchups, so that's why I feel like I need to maximize on these, because those are the 2 most popular decks outside of Dragon World. Up next is a really questionable card in the deck, Dragon Breath. It's a good form of monster removal in some ways and not. It's pay 1 gauge, it's a counter spell, and you destroy monsters on the field with 4,000 or less power. So you can destroy your own, but I don't know why you would destroy your own. Anyway, this card just allows you to deal with some cards that Dragonic Thunder can't, which is only usually size 2, could have really low powers, so this card can deal with them, or it can just deal with cards just as well as Dragonic Thunder in some cases. And then form of item and spell removal, we have 2 Dragon Crush. Dragon Crush, you pay 2 gauge and then you destroy an item or spell. Pretty simple. But it's just because of the 2 gauge cast cost that you really shouldn't play more than 2 at all. And you really should be playing at least one of these, because you're going to need these against Magic World for their Gun Rod. You're going to need this against Katana World for their set spells, like Lethal Formation and such. Up next, we have 3 Drago Energy. It's a counter spell. You choose 1 Armored Dragon in battle, and for this battle, it gives it 3,000 power and 3,000 defense and counterattack, which means if the monster you use this on survives the attack, you can kill the monster as long as it has less or equal to power of the monster you use this on. So, pretty much, you can say someone goes for a link attack of 8,000 on my Damascus Armor Dragon. So now I can just go for Drago Energy, and then I get to choose which one of the monsters I want to destroy, because now it's survived the attack and it has 6,000, and that's more than most likely one of the monsters that was used to link attack. So I can destroy one of them. So in the terms of a link attack, you can choose which one you want to destroy. But only a monster. You can't destroy items that link attack. You can only destroy the monster, not the item. Up next is 3 Drago Bond. Drago Bond is a really great card. You may only cast this card if you do not have a center, a monster. It's a counter spell, and you choose a monster in battle, and then during this turn, the monster will not be destroyed, and you gain 2 life. So that means you can just save a monster and gain 2 life as long as you don't have a center. So the best thing to do with this card is to have a card like Bladewing Dragon. Now, if I have a Bladewing Dragon on my left, and I don't have a center, then I can activate Drago Bomb before the attack phase starts. I put it on the card. Now the attack phase starts, so now I can move this to the middle, and then it would still keep the Drago Bond effect. So if they attack this, it will not die, and I gain 2 life, and then they still have to kill it afterwards. So this card, like any move ability, like Halberd Dragon, which I would really like to play in the deck, because then even that combo would be just deadly to your opponent, because Halberd Dragon has the same stats as Damascus, the whole 6,000 defense, 6,000 attack, 2 crit. So it would become even a bigger wall, because now you have a wall that can just go back and forth, and while it's here, I can just make sure it doesn't die, then move it to the middle, so now I can't die. So this card just really works well in the deck, because it not only combos with your movability monsters, but it also saves you from a lot of situations that even shields can't deal with. Then lastly, the defensive cards, we have 1 Rafa Dragon. It's pretty much like Drago Energy, but you do not give counterattack, but you do get 6,000 power and defense. Now what this does is it's a counter spell just like Drago Energy, but this is like here because I don't want to play a 4 Drago Energy. And this is like a really great card because it just saves your monster when Drago Energy can't. Now, once again, let's have a situation where I have a Damascus in my center or something. Imagine they go for a 10,000 link attack. You cannot Drago Energy to save it because it only adds up to 9,000. So if you go Rafa Dragon, you may not get the counterattack and you don't get to kill anything with the Rafa Dragon, but you do save the Damascus, the monster in your center. The point is, this card can save your cards sometimes better than Drago Energy, which is why I play this instead of a 4th Drago Energy. Now on to the miscellaneous crap that most dragons play. We have 2 Dragonic Charge, which means just put the top 2 cards of your deck into your gauge, which is just great because this is a gauge-heavy deck, so it gets you more gauge. 2 Dragonic Grimoires. Dragonic Grimoire is my favorite spell in the deck because it just does so much for the deck. You may only cast this card if you have 5 or less life, but if you discard your entire hand and then you draw 3 cards, but you can only activate 1 Dragonic Grimoire per turn. But you can activate this card if you do not have any cards in hand. So if you have 5 or less life, and then you just activate this card, you can discard nothing, and then just draw 3. This card is so good in the deck because it gets you out of lots of bad situations late game. But only late game, so that's why you play 2, because you don't want to see these early games. For Green Dragon Shield, if you do not have a monster in the center, then you can just straight up nullify any attack when they attack. And you gain a life. I mean, that's great. And then you also have 3 Blue Dragon Shield. Now, people would say, why don't you play 4? Because I don't feel like I should play 4, because even though it's a great card, it is not worth playing at 4. And that's just my opinion. But it's pretty much the same as Green Dragon Shield. Instead of gaining a life, you put the top card in your deck into your gauge. And then the last, but definitely not least, because it's the best impact in the game, 3 Gargantua Punisher. Gargantua Punisher, you pay 4 gauge, and if your opponent has 4 less life and neither of you have a center, you pretty much win the game, because you will deal 4 damage, they cannot nullify it, and they cannot reduce the damage. So, this card, it may sound really situational, but when it comes to dragons, this card works really well and does not really get stopped a lot. If you really can't almost stop it because you can't nullify it. So that's the deck for you guys. I know you've seen it before, but now you get to see explanations and why I play cards in my deck, certain cards in my deck. So hope you guys like this video, and if you subscribe to Team Bearing Infinity. So see you guys later. Joey going out.